Kiwi is a common self-reference used by New Zealanders, though it is also used internationally. Unlike many demographic labels, its usage is not considered offensive. Rather, it is generally viewed as a symbol of pride and endearment for most people of New Zealand. However, not all New Zealanders self-identify with the reference. The name derives from the kiwi, a native flightless bird, which is a state symbol of New Zealand. Until the First World War, the kiwi represented the country and not the people. However, by 1917, New Zealanders were also being called Kiwis, supplanting other nicknames such as NZ. The kiwi has long had a special significance for the indigenous Maori people, who used its skin to make feather cloaks for chiefs. The bird first came to European attention in 1811 when a skin ended up in the hands of a British museum zoologist, George Shaw, who classified it as a type of penguin and portrayed it as standing upright. After early sightings by Europeans, the kiwi was regarded as a curiosity. In 1835, the missionary William Yeat described it as the most remarkable and curious bird in New Zealand. In the early 1900s, cartoonists began to use the kiwi as a representation of New Zealand. For example, in a 1904 New Zealand freelance cartoon, a plucky kiwi is shown growing to a moya after a rugby victory of 9-3 over a British team. The next year, the Westminster Gazette printed a cartoon of a kiwi and a kangaroo going off to a colonial conference. Trevor Lloyd, who worked for the New Zealand Herald, also used a kiwi to represent the All Blacks rugby team, but he more often drew a moya. Other symbols for New Zealand at this time included the silver fern, a small boy, and a young lion cub. But until the First World War, the kiwi was used as a symbol of the country rather than the people of New Zealand. In the early 20th century, New Zealanders, especially soldiers and All Blacks players, were referred to internationally as NZ. These terms were still being used near the end of the First World War of 1914-18. However, although New Zealand soldiers were often described as diggers or as pig islanders, by 1917 they were also being called Kiwis. The image of the kiwi had appeared on military badges since the South Canterbury Battalion used it in 1886, and several regiments took it up in the First World War. Quote, Kiwis came to mean the men of New Zealand regiments. The nickname is not thought to have originated as a reference to the physical attributes of the New Zealand servicemen. It was simply that the kiwi was distinct and unique to the country. Its prominent use on the New Zealand regiment's insignia also made for easy association. The nickname eventually became common usage in all war theatres. After the end of the First World War in November 1918, many New Zealand troops stayed in Europe for months or years awaiting transport home. At Sling Camp, near Bulford on Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, New Zealand soldiers carved a chalk kiwi into the nearby hill in early 1919. The New Zealanders' presence popularized the nickname within Europe. An Australian boot polish called Kiwi was widely used in the Imperial forces. William Ramsey, a developer of the product, named the polish in honor of his wife's birthplace, New Zealand. Beginning in 1906, Kiwi shoe polish eventually became widely sold in the UK and the US, and the symbol became more widely known. The Australian National Dictionary also gives the first use of the term Kiwi kids and Kiwis in 1917 to mean Australian Army recruits who had kiwied up. In other words, they had highly polished boots. Following the Second World War of 1939 to 1945, the term gradually became attributed to all New Zealanders, and today throughout the world they are referred to as Kiwis, as well as often referring to themselves that way. Spelling of the word kiwi, when used to describe the people, is often capitalized. The bird's name is spelled with a lowercase kn. Being a word of Maori origin, normally stays as kiwi when pluralized. Thus, two kiwis refers to two people, whereas two kiwi refers to two birds. This linguistic nicety is exemplified by the Conservation Trust Save the Kiwi, which used the slogan, Kiwis for Kiwi. Some organizations now use the plural form Kiwi to refer to the people evidenced by Kiwi Bank changing its slogan from Kiwis making Kiwis better off to Kiwi making Kiwi better off. Kiwi is not generally considered to be a derogatory term. However, there are New Zealanders, including some with Maori heritage, that find the appellation jarring and prefer not to identify with it. In an official context, Kiwi has been used in the name of government services and state-owned enterprises, such as Kiwi Bank, Kiwi Saver, and Kiwi Rail, and is frequently used in government press releases to refer to everyone in or of New Zealand.